Let me ask you something. Do you ever wonder if your job, your 9 to 5, is doing more than just paying the bills? Like, is it actually changing who you are as a person? Well, that's exactly what we're going to dig into today. The surprising science of how your work might be reshaping your personality.
Most of us kind of think our personality is set in stone. I mean, you are who you are, right? It's supposed to be this core part of us that stays the same no matter what life throws at us. But what if that's not the whole story? What if that core assumption is just wrong? All right, so let's get on the same page. When psychologists talk about personality, this is basically what they're talking about. It's all those patterns, how we think, feel, and act, that are supposedly pretty stable over time. And that word stable is really the key here. But, and this is a big but, as we're about to find out, stable doesn't mean it's locked in forever. So how do you even measure something like personality? Well, the gold standard for researchers is a framework called the Big Five. The easiest way to remember it is with the acronym OCEAN. That's openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. Just think of these as the primary colors that mix together to make up the unique masterpiece that is you. Okay, so here's where things get really interesting. What if I told you that something like your job could actually change those stable traits? We're finding that big life experiences, and yeah, especially our work lives, can cause these core personality traits to shift. And that's a huge deal. It pretty much turns decades of psychological thinking on its head. This is exactly what researchers like Dr. Lena Wang at RMIT University decided to look into. And her quote here, wow, it really nails it. She's saying, we're not just talking about having a bad day at the office. No, this is about slow, creeping changes to the very core of who you are. Changes you might not even see happen. And the results? Honestly, they're pretty startling. A study followed a group of people for more than 4 years, and what they found was that chronic job insecurity, that constant worry about your job's future, it made people measurably less emotionally stable, less agreeable, and less conscientious. Think about that. The very things that make you a good employee and colleague, being calm, cooperative, and reliable, were being worn away by the stress of the job itself. So this is the really critical takeaway, right? That constant nagging stress from job insecurity doesn't just give you a bad week. Over the long haul, it can literally remold the foundations of your personality, the very things we all thought were permanent.
But how? How does this actually happen? I mean, what is the psychological process that's going on here? Well, for a long time, the leading theory tried to answer exactly that.
It's a concept called ego depletion. And the idea behind it is actually pretty simple, but it's powerful. Imagine your willpower or your self-control isn't some unlimited wellspring. Instead, think of it like a muscle. You use it all day to stay focused, to be patient, to resist distractions. And just like any muscle, if you overwork it without any rest, it gets exhausted. It just gives out.
There's a classic experiment from 1998 that shows this perfectly. So picture this. You've got two groups of people in a room that smells like delicious, fresh-baked cookies. Group A, they're told to resist the cookies and eat radishes instead. Ouch. Group B gets to munch on the cookies. Then both groups are asked to solve this really tough, frustrating puzzle. And guess what? The poor radish eaters, the ones who had to use all their willpower to not eat the cookies, they gave up on the puzzle way faster. Their self-control muscle was totally spent.
Now think about that constant drain on your willpower muscle, but happening day after day, week after week at your job. Sound familiar? Yep. We have a word for that, burnout. It's basically ego depletion playing out in the real world of our careers. And burnout is so much more than just feeling tired. It's a recognized syndrome. Let's break it down into its two main parts. First, there's exhaustion, that deep, bone-weary feeling both physically and emotionally. And second, there's disengagement. That's when you start feeling cynical, detached, you're just not invested anymore. And this isn't just a theory, we can actually see it in the data. Take a look at this. Researchers followed a group of nursing students. On the left, you see their exhaustion levels at the start of their training. Now look at the chart on the right. This is just 1 year later. See how the whole curve is shifted over? The average exhaustion level for the entire group went up. It's a measurable increase in burnout. So here's how it all loops together. It turns out our built-in personality is a big piece of the puzzle. One massive study found that our baseline traits can explain about a third of why some people burn out and others don't. So it's a two-way street. Your personality can make you more or less prone to burnout, and, as we've seen, that burnout can then turn around and change your personality. It's a real feedback loop.
But just when it seems like we have this neat, tidy explanation for everything, there's a plot twist. Because science, doing what it does best, started to poke holes in the theory. The whole idea of ego depletion, well, it ran into some serious trouble. Check out this timeline. It tells the whole story. Back in '98, the first study comes out, and it's a huge deal. By 2010, a big review of almost 200 studies says, yup, this effect is real. But then, the cracks start to show. In 2015, another analysis raises a red flag, suggesting maybe we're only seeing the studies that worked. And then, the bombshell in 2016, a massive replication attempt, with dozens of labs trying to recreate the original experiment. And they found nothing. The effect just wasn't.
This, right here, is a perfect example of what people call the replication crisis in psychology. But it's so important to see this not as a failure, but as science working exactly like it's supposed to. This is the system correcting itself. The whole point is to be skeptical, to retest everything, and to throw out ideas that don't hold up, even the really popular ones.
Okay, so where does that leave us? If the main theory we've been using, ego depletion, is now in question, what are we supposed to make of all this? What's the real story here? And this is maybe the most important point of all. We can argue all day about why it happens, or what we should call the mechanism. Is it ego depletion? Is it something else? But at the end of the day, the what hasn't changed. The evidence that chronic stress at work has a profound, long-term impact on who we are, that evidence is still rock solid.
All right, let's wrap this up with the key takeaways. Number 1, your personality is not set in stone. It's way more dynamic than we thought. Number 2, chronic stress from your job is a powerful engine for changing that personality over time. 3, this whole process is tied directly to the experience of burnout. And finally, number 4, seeing scientists debate and retest ideas isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign that the system is working, and that's a very good thing.
So, I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. We spend so much time thinking about what our job does for us, the paycheck, the title, but maybe the bigger question is what our job does to us. If your environment is constantly shaping who you are becoming, well, that makes the choice of which environments you spend your time in one of the most important decisions you can make.